So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Linda Osinchuk, and I am the candidate, nominated candidate for Sherwood Park and for the Wildrose. But I also am running for the leadership of the Wildrose Party. And today, it is unfortunate that my two fellow colleagues didn't join us, because when the invitation came forward, thank you, Jonathan, for that opportunity. It is opportunity to dialogue and get to know who we are. So I'm going to just introduce who is Linda Osinchuk and what do I bring to this table of important times of an election. I've been a farm girl in Saskatchewan and come from rural roots, but then I took my nursing in Saskatoon and became an Albertan close to 40 years ago when, of course, the drop of jobs for nurses, just like teachers, go into a cyclical time. So yeah, I was only 14 that time, so sorry to get the math there. So becoming an Albertan was really a time when I could actually work. Jobs are important. I've been a resident in the Edmonton area, in Edmonton, and married my husband, who is a psychiatrist at the Royal Lalek 36 years ago. I have 4 grown children. My youngest daughter is graduating from the U of A and going to be a geologist. And just recently, almost a year, I've been a grandma. So I'm a Baba now, and that has been my family portion. Through these years, I've been the mayor of Strathcona County, and that's a $250 million corporation that really is a rural and urban specialized municipality. Through those years of 15 years of nursing and then moving into the political cycle, the passion I had for standing up for injustices, to actually putting my foot forward and knowledge on the math, economics, but also on the people side of the scale, I found I was really passionate to do that. The mayorship really was in looking at collaboration, looking at how do you pull in people to the table for solutions, the Capital Region Board, moving into being chair of the Alberta Industrial Heartland, which is one of Canada's biggest economic engines of the nation. So that is worth $40 to $50 billion, I should say, billion dollars. And you're thinking, all right, being the chair of the Heartland and be the Capital Region, and of course, how does Fort McMurray, Calgary, Southern Alberta, how does this all economics work? Well, my passion is really to see exactly what you're facing and what the public sector is facing, is how do we bring in the private sector conversation. 2008, 2009, we saw an economic downturn and dollars, and the oil prices again are looking exactly what we're seeing now. And we need to look at how do we kind of put on solutions of other revenue sourcing. So during that time of my mayorship and leadership, we did have to look at operating the corporation, the municipal corporation, like a business, like looking at efficiencies, bringing in some outside sources to look at those efficiencies, but then myself and the team had to look at other revenue, or else what happens? Taxes go up, services go down. And we're hearing that right now, again, in the dialogue from our own government. So I did go to Qatar, I did go to Ukraine, we did go and search out other companies that we didn't have in the industrial heartland. One, for example, was Sasol. Sasol is a company from South Africa. And just to quickly bring this to a discussion here is that 5 companies came into the industrial heartland and was worth $10 billion. And so that's the discussion of how can you put solutions to the table in regards to an economic time. So where and what am I doing in regards to the leadership of Wildrose? And that saga about what happened last December has put questions in people's minds is the party viable? Is it going to make a difference? Where can people actually come out to vote, and why should they vote Wildrose? Actually, that particular event angered not only Albertans, but myself. I've really prided myself in having integrity and being honest to what you bring to the table. And I think that time actually put questions about, what will Wildrose do? The people that have been left have showed that integrity. They have showed that they believe in the individual Albertans, and I think, and I know as leader moving forward, we have to highlight why each individual Albertan counts, from teachers to nurses to every aspect on the front line. I do believe that education and healthcare is the pillars of this province, and I think that we cannot diminish and actually invest in our children's education and to the future. This is time that we have to actually have that dialogue with our public sector. Yes, they're floating. Yes, you're getting the best wages in Canada. And yes, they're, you know what? 8% is nothing compared to the 28% that the private sector is getting in comparison to the, and can, you know. This is not a time to cut. It's time to invest. As a nurse, as a speaker on behalf of people, and one that is passionate about emphasizing the pillars and the stability and what government needs to bring, it's time to look at another source of government. And I know that our present Premier is talking about British Columbia as being the way to kind of put compensation and salaries on the table. Well, BC is known for the worst labor forces in Canada. And so why would we actually start looking at a way to actually disallow unions and disallow teachers, disallow nurses to actually come to the table with a fair discussion? I do not support that. And it's time actually that we end up looking at other sources of revenue, not on the backs of our public sector. We need to not be shy to start talking about the royalty regime, not be shy to talk about private sector. I'm about business. I've owned 2 businesses during this time, and I think it's time that we actually realize we do have a choice. And as I heard part of your panel earlier discuss, and I have to disagree with Dwayne, saying 2015 will not be a huge election year. This is a crossroads. This is where the future of Alberta is going to go. And if people believe, like I believe, and like where to be the leader here is to actually be a leader of people, not of institutions, not of parties, but actually represent and truly bring some collaborative discussion to the table, bring in a budget that actually looks at different forms of budgeting at this time. And the government, you cannot read that budget. It's very easy to float all these taxes. It's easy to float all these different solutions, and then when you bring in a budget right now and saying, oh, you know what, we've heard you, I'll only put, 5% on the table of taxes. So let's not get fooled. What's the difference between voting with the present government and looking at other options like the Wildrose? And I told Jonathan I'm going to be animated. Well, this is my wallet. It's going to be your pocketbook that it's going to impact. It's going to impact what you take home. It's going to impact how you can end up having a job, supporting your families. I'm Linda Osinchuk. Today is the last day that for the leadership vote, to vote for and actually support the leader in Wildrose. I think it's time for better options, and I want to be here for you, for all Albertans. Thank you.